Hey guys, welcome back to the church lighting game plan, and in this video we're going to talk all about intensity and how we can use intensity in our service as we're creating, programming, and thinking about what we're going to do with lights, where we're going to put them. How can we use intensity to make our service, keep it fresh, keep it interesting, and also just lead people towards the message. That's ultimately what we're trying to do with lighting in the church. And so I want to show you, introduce you guys to the visualizer setup I've got here. I've kind of mocked up a church setup here where we've got a stage set in. You got two walls here. There'd probably be projection screens, here and here. There's a lighting truss out here. You may not have a lighting truss. Again, we talked in the previous video, in lesson 1, about the ideal angles for lighting, but that's not always possible. You might be ground supported on the sides or in the back of the room, or what have you. And then I got a backlight position here with 4 backlights and some ceiling lights. And so got our front wash up right now. I'm going to bring up everything else and introduce it to you. And so for this rig, which this might be more than you and your church have. It might be less than you and your church have. And that's not what it's about here. It's not about saying, oh, I don't have this much stuff. This doesn't apply to me. Or my stage isn't this big. This doesn't apply to me. This is about, I'm trying to choose a lighting rig here that is kind of in the middle. So some of you guys are going to have more stuff than this, and this will still apply to your rig. Some of you guys will have less stuff than this, and everything I show you will still apply to your rig as well. I tried to just really aim in the middle based off the feedback I get from you guys when you email in and I talk to you. And so what we got here is, like I said, we've got our conventional or maybe a white LED source. We got 8 of those for the front light and then 4 for the back light. Then I've got 6 quad LED pars lighting the band. We won't use that during the preaching look, just during the band. And then I've got 6 LED strip lights uplighting this back wall. And then I've got 4 LED pars lighting the ceiling. And this is something that I really like to do if you have any extra lights or can get a couple, because when you light the ceiling in the space, it really makes everything feel together. It really helps the room as a whole feel connected with what's happening on stage, which is ultimately what we're trying to do anywhere we light, but especially in the church. And then, as you can see, I've got 2 moving lights on the truss. They're Chauvet Rogue R2s in this example. They're pointing at the side walls of the stage, so we can only see one of them in this video, and that's okay. But they've also got their prism in, and we'll talk about that later. But, they're just a good moving light. You may not have moving lights. You may, like I said at the start of this, does not matter what rig you have. This is just an example. And so how we can use intensity in our service to keep things interesting and fresh is we're able to, one, focus on certain areas of the stage over others. So here, you can see I've brought down front lights except for in the middle where the worship leader is likely standing. Then we just got this wall wash up and the back light. And if we had a cross on this back wall, like many churches, then we'd be highlighting the cross, and that's ultimately what we're trying to do, right? And so we could do that during parts of the service to kind of bring people in and use that intensity to make the space feel smaller. You notice I turned off the ceiling lights because you turn those off and that disappears, in people's minds a little bit, subliminally. And all of a sudden the room feels smaller. Then the opposite of that, of course, if I can grab the right mouse and click the right button, we will highlight the ceiling and not highlight the back wall as much and highlight the sides to add some freshness during your service. So say you've got, a couple songs. I'm mostly going to talk about the music portion during these videos just because the lighting changes the most during those portions, during the preaching. you're probably going to have one look that you leave up for the whole preaching. And so for the music, though, it's going to change a lot. And so we've got this here, and, definitely not focusing on the back wall as much, but focusing on the ceiling, putting that light out in the congregation, those patterns on the side walls to keep it fresh. Then I want to show you guys, bring everything up to full and show you guys some different ways we can use effects with intensity. So here you can just see a slow sine effect, is this called, because it's like a sine wave over the percentage of light coming out. And, you can imagine this. You might, in your church, not want to use movement, or maybe you want to use a lot of movement. Everybody's different on this, and there's no right answer. There's just what's right with your congregation. And so, this is a soft way to use movement. Definitely, in a song, you could use it. You could slow it down and use it to just add a little bit of texture to a slow song. Similarly, we can introduce a ramp, and here you can see it change just a little, and it's a little bit harder. And then, of course, there's a chase like this, which would be reserved for fast songs. You can see the lights just chasing through, and this is probably faster than you're going to run it most of the time in a church, but I just want to show it to you. I've done it occasionally for like youth events and stuff, but those are just some examples and some ways that you can use movement, that you can use intensity in your service to create that feeling of closeness and really make people feel together and help point their eyes towards the message that you're conveying from your church. And so in the next video, we're going to talk about focus and how we can use our lights to create focus in different areas, as well as just overall. So hop over there, and we'll see you in the next video.